Coach Kiwana here. So today we're going to be talking about core stability, and I don't mean abs. That is not what I'm talking about. You can have abs basically based on your body fat percentage. So I do not have abs, but I do have a very strong core, meaning that when I perform certain activities, I have the ability to brace my core so that my spine is safe. And that's what I'm focusing on today, is core stability for spinal health. And what I mean by core, and some people will think of the core as right here, as just your abs, and really it's not. I think of the core as basically from here to here, all the way around, because of how things attach and your different muscles and joints and how they work together. That is your core, right? So your psoas crosses this joint here. It's attached to the front of your spine here and attaches to the lesser trochanter of your femur, right? So it does flexion and flexion, right? So it does spinal flexion and it does leg flexion, right? Your rectus femoris, right, comes up and crosses that joint again. So it does this, right? Glutes come up and attach into the top of the iliac crest, and they attach onto your sacrum a little bit. Your sacrum is the tail end of your spine, right? It's those 5 fused vertebrae at the bottom of your spine. So to have everything work together, you need to train it all in a certain way. That's not to say that when you're performing a lift or whatever that you shouldn't flex your spine. It's more to say that when you're performing axial loading, meaning a barbell squat or a deadlift or picking up your groceries or your child, that you shouldn't have a straight spine. And the reason I say that is because we know that flexion moment is what I'm going to call it. So when you're lifting and say your spine bends just a little bit, that's when we have things like herniations and when people, quote, throw out their back. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is bracing your core, all the muscles that attach into your core, so that you have a nice, strong, and stable base, so that you know how to brace here so you don't injure your back. Okay? So that's what we're going to talk about, and yeah, we'll just get right into it. So when talking about spinal stability, a lot of, or even just like the abs or the core in general, so many people think of the abs as like spinal flexors, and I think that's part of the 80s, like 7-minute abs, that whole thing where I'm just like, oh Christ. Okay, so you can flex and extend your spine, and it can be helpful, but for other things, meaning like transferring to other lifts, you are going to want more like spinal stability, not necessarily visible abs. And really, visible abs just comes down to body fat percentage. I have a higher body fat percentage, so guess what? No abs. Although I have a very strong core. So that is helpful. So I think one of the things that I want to talk to you today about is just being able to maintain a nice, strong core through movements. Most of my clients and most people, I feel like, don't have a really great understanding of where their spine or their pelvis is in space, meaning that when they're performing a lift, they don't brace their core, and they will, for example, allow their hips to anteriorly rotate on the way down, and then maybe posteriorly rotate on the way at the very bottom, which I'm sure you've seen called the butt wink, right? So if you're at the bottom of a squat, for example, you come all the way down and then your spine curves under, right? And you come back up, and this is what the stripper squat, right? So you come up like this and then do that. That's not what we're looking for. So what I want to try to train is that understanding of where the the pelvis is, meaning anterior posteriorly rotated, and in relation to your spine. One of the best exercises that I found for that, and that translates pretty easily to a squat and a deadlift, is the Deadbug. And I worked as a physical therapy aide, so this is one of the things that I would train people for their core and pelvic organization, let's just call it that. So the Deadbug is basically, you lay down on a mat, and so right now I'm pretty relaxed, right? Very relaxed, and I can kind of get my hands under my spine. What I want you to do is actively push your low back into the mat here. And now I can't really get my hands underneath my back. And I'm pulling my bottom ribs and the top of my hip bone together, right? To create that core bracing. Now, a lot of times when people do that, they hold their breath. And so what I want you to do is be able to hold this and still be able to breathe. So my abs and my core are still engaged, but I'm able to breathe. It takes a little bit of training, obviously. And then the next thing is basically, so you're pushing your low back into the mat, right? Arms at your side for this one. And then I'm gonna tiptoe my feet back. This is the very beginner one, till I start to lift my legs. And then I'm going to so just now I let that go a little bit. I want my legs to go out to 90 degrees, right? So the knee joint is at 90 degrees, the hip joint is at 90 degrees, the hip and low back, right? And I still can't get my hands under this. Now, this is where people start to have problems. So I just want you to start with just holding this for 30 seconds. And that's gonna be very challenging. You're gonna feel your upper abs and you're gonna feel your lower abs engage, because as you get more tired, this lever is gonna try to pull you down, right? Like that. And you have to actively resist it with your obliques, with your rectus abdominis, right? All those kinds of things. So you're just gonna hang out here and breathe for 30 seconds. That is exercise 1. That's where you start. And I would say most people need to do that for like 2 weeks regularly, and you can really, honestly, you can do it every day. If you have like no kind of spinal understanding, you can do it every day. The next exercise is just being able to toe tap without moving your spine, right? So moving each leg independently without letting your spine move. And what I mean by that is you start the same way, right? You press your low back into the mat, arms at your sides, you tiptoe your feet back, right? And I'm pushing my low back in, lift the legs up to 90. So I've got this braced, right? And then the next thing is I'm just going to lower one leg, and I really have to brace here so this doesn't happen, right? So really tight, 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 lower, bring it back up. And I don't want alternating, right? I want you to bring this leg back up and then lower the other one, really bracing, right? Bring that leg back up, and then the other one. And that's it, right? So that's thing 2. As you get stronger, you can start to do double toe taps, right? Like this. So bring this under, like you tuck it, seam start. And so when you're working with clients, you can say, like what I say to my clients is Deadbug core. Like right before they're about to do a lift, I'm like, okay, work on that Deadbug core, and that's like that core bracing. Some people, like power lifters and things like that, will call it like the Valsalva maneuver, and it's a little bit different for the Valsalva. You actually take a deep inhale and then brace, so you have that like fluid ball, right? And I know that's a little bit different, but anywho, so what we're gonna do next is the double toe tap. So you posterior pelvic tilt, right? Push your low back into the mat, lift your legs to 90 degrees, and then lower
both legs at the same time and bring them back up without letting your spine move, right? So we're lowering and coming back up. And then that's it, right? So, and that's what I mean by that like flexion or extension moment, is like not letting it move. So keeping your spine straight. And you can see how this is basically, if I do this, this is a squat, right? It's a squat on my back. So working with clients who don't, especially older clients or people who have been injured or whatever, you can get them into position, right, to be able to squat or deadlift and actually control their spine and their core without the danger of getting injured, right? Because there's no spinal loading in this position, right?
So being able to move your legs independently for any kind of exercise. So as I said, like bracing your core and being able to move your leg, guess what? That's a lunge, right? If you move that exercise from the floor up into a standing position, it's a lunge, right? So you brace the core, right? That little bit of posterior pelvic tilt, your spine is totally flat, and then you lunge back, right? My spine shouldn't flex or extend. For new lifters, the lunge is, I think, a very basic, good beginner position. I love the squat, and I do teach the squat, like sit stands and things like that to start with people who are totally novice lifters. But the squat can be very challenging, like a double leg exercise, especially for people who have never really lifted before. A double leg exercise like that can feel kind of intimidating. Sit to stands, I think, are really accessible, but a lunge you can do holding on to something, you know. For older populations, that's really, really helpful if they're kind of unstable. It helps build balance. That's one of the biggest things about the lunge that I love, is that it helps build that balance component. Because guess what? Walking is a single leg exercise. So lunging is a single leg exercise. To be able to get some hang time in your lunge is extremely important, to be able to have the control through your hips and your spine and your pelvis to be able to lunge back, right? And then step up and not have to worry about where your leg is in space. It's like, you know what I mean? Because as we age, we know that like falling is a problem. And why is falling a problem? Because people lose the ability to balance, right? So if you're on one leg, you should be able to balance for a period of time before you transfer your weight to the other leg. So that's part of why I teach these things. So I mean, mostly for independence, and a lot of people in their 20s and 30s don't even think about it, but I do, because, well, I'm in my mid-30s and I've had a myriad of injuries and I'm still dealing with injuries, but I've also worked with a lot of people who are anywhere between 35 and 70, even into their mid-80s actually, and you know, being strong and independent is so, so important. So you can do bird dogs for core control as well, and this gets the glutes involved. So I'm gonna tuck my shirt in. So in this four-legged position, the next thing I want you to do is work on the bird dog. So this is a rotational, or like, I guess it's like an anti-rotation. So what you would be doing is you've got the obliques, and then you've got serratus and all those rotatory muscles in your spine. And so what you're wanting to do is actively keep those engaged so you don't slump to one side or the other. So for example, you start on all fours and you reach back and you're reaching through the heel to get that glute engaged, but you're not lifting that hip up, and you're not also letting it dip down, and you're not sliding to the side. So from the front, what that looks like is you're on all fours and you lift like this without having this hip take all that pressure, right? So keeping that hip squeezed in, you would alternate
like this. And what I see with clients is they go up like that because they don't have the ability to brace their core here. So how you start with people who are having a hard time with that is you can just lift one knee and one hand. And as they get stronger, they can do just the leg, just the arm, right? And then eventually both. And usually what I'll have people do is actually start here and then hold like 1, 2 count. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, right? And that's just to get people to brace their core in that rotation, right? Because what do we do when we're rotating? We look over our shoulder to check traffic, right? Yell at the kids in the back seat, right? Whatever. If you're a golfer, you need to be able to control your spine, control the muscles that brace your spine. Otherwise, you're going to look in the back seat one day and you're going to go, oh, and you're going to hurt your back. Right? So you need to have all those muscles that control you. So this is a foam roller, and this also teaches a little bit, we're going to do a dead bug on the foam roller. I love this exercise because it teaches a lot of balance. So you're going to sit on the end of the foam roller, and then you want your spine, your whole spine is supported, right? So for tall people, this can be challenging. So you want your sacrum and the back of your head supported, and right, like look at my spine, I can come up right here, right? That's just totally relaxed. But as soon as I engage here, that means that my spine, I can't get my fingers underneath my spine anymore. So again, same thing, start people with 2 hands out, and I say fingertips like this, elbows up, and this is like an outrigger, right? So this is so you're supported from side to side. So tuck that in, walk your feet back, come up 90 degrees. And then as people get stronger, you can have them lift an arm, right? Whoop. You can have them lift an arm, and then, right? As they get stronger from here, you can have them reach one leg and one arm out and tap. You can just do one, right? So you can just do the arm or just the leg. And I'm really having to recruit a lot of the rotational stabilizers because I'm wobbling from side to side. I do have to keep one hand down, otherwise I'll probably fall. But the entire time, even when my leg reaches out, my spine is still in full contact with the foam roller, right? And then I come back up, hand out. And then we do second side. So we talked about the dead bug, and we also talked about the bird dog and using the foam roller to do the dead bugs. But I had an Instagram follower ask me about working up to a hollow position. So the hollow position in gymnastics is essentially the extended hardcore version of the dead bug, and then also hollow rocks. So being able to maintain that hollow position while moving, right? So a hollow is a dead bug, except for your legs and your arms are extended. So if you can work up to the dead bug, right, getting your feet to alternate, right, getting this position where your feet are alternating without your core moving, and then eventually you can start to reach one leg out, maybe, and one arm out, and then switch. And then the next step to that, and my spine is staying in contact with the floor the whole time. The next version of that is both legs out, right? And then arms out and lowering that down, but not letting your spine move, right? So I just let it go on purpose, but being able to control that, squeezing your legs together, right? And then eventually you can start to rock. And you shouldn't be flexing or extending your spine while rocking back and forth. I'm staying in this kind of like tucked position and then rocking back and forth. As you get stronger, you can add weight. You can add dumbbells, a barbell, whatever, and rock back and forth, right? So keeping this like, this doesn't just transfer to squats and deadlifts, it also can transfer to gymnastic skills like pull-ups, muscle ups, what else? Any kind of gymnastics exercise. I'm not super great at gymnastics, I'm working on it. Anyways, the first step is recognizing you have a problem, which is, I just don't have the upper body strength. Working on it. So working towards that hollow and hollow rock starts with the dead bug. Starts with oblique control, ab bracing, core bracing, all those kinds of things. And you can even think of it as like core compression, kind of. And I don't want to misspeak, but so those are some of the ways that I like to progress this exercise. Is like dead bug, holding for 30 seconds and then toe taps, and then, reaching, and then doing double toe taps, and then bringing that back up and doing one alternating leg reaches, basically, these guys. And then alternating arm and leg reaches. And if you can do that without your spine moving, then maybe you can do double, leg, and then arms, and then rock, right? And not, like, my spine is staying into contact. And when I notice when people are not doing it right, they flop. You hear that flop? You should be able to tuck and roll. Right? That's the difference. So, hopefully that helps. Yeah, I know. It's a lot of information, but it's really fun and it'll keep your spine super safe. So give it a shot. And the next time you squat or deadlift, think about that dead bug core. Think about that nice straight spine. So you keep yourself honest, basically. You want to be able to have a nice, straight, strong spine so that you can keep doing whatever you want to do for as long as you want to do it, right? My goals in life are to stay fit and healthy forever with no pain, so I can, be independent when I'm 100. That's the goal, right? So hopefully this is helpful. If you liked this video and you found it to be helpful, please, like, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, whatever. If you have any questions, comment below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. I'm really bad with that. Thank you so much and I hope to see you soon. Bye.